Bonus Bucks is back on KFAN. We have 9 chances for you to win $1,000 every weekday. That's every hour from 9 a.m. till 5 p.m., including the keyword this hour, which will be coming up in just a little bit. To enter the keywords and learn more, head to KFAN.com.
Welcome back to the Fan. Paul Charching with you. Very pleased to be joined by one of my very favorite people in the fantasy football industry. It's Sigmond Bloom, co-owner of Football Guys, footballguys.com, and the wonderful On the Couch podcast. Hi, Sigmond.
Hey, Paul.
It's so good to talk to you. I am really excited to break down. It is a tough day, though, for Vikings fans here, Sig. You know why.
Yes. Well, and it's funny because we can even take this back to fantasy football, because what people thought about Sam Darnold and the source of his success, it might have put you on Justin Jefferson, off of Jackson Smith and Jigba. So, these things are consequential, but, I do think that the other side of this now for Minnesota fans to watch is what's the Vikings' next move at quarterback, and how much of it is going to be based on Kevin O'Connell and patience, and how much of it is going to be based on results in a results-based business.
Do you think the Vikings will roll into next year, week 1 starter J.J. McCarthy, based on what, there's a million things. This is extremely early, and this is a non-binding conversation.
Sure.
Do you think J.J. McCarthy is going to roll over as the Vikings quarterback, or do you think they will have a legitimate attempt to challenge him with somebody else, or maybe even just a better backup?
They have to look at what Indianapolis did and the success they were able to have by bringing in somebody to legitimately challenge Anthony Richardson. So absolutely, Mac Jones, a trade for Mac Jones should be in play here. And otherwise, I would be interested just who Kevin O'Connell has his eye on, because as we keep talking about these guys, Daniel Jones, Sam Darnold, Malik Willis is going to be an interesting name in this offseason to watch. Maybe the hack, Paul, is that, and this is going to apply to J.J. McCarthy perhaps in a few years, that the fans, the owners have expectations that are too high for young quarterbacks. They're not given a chance to productively fail, to update their software so they can become the quarterback that everybody pictures. And then another coach, another organization can come in, Baker Mayfield's another one, after the hopes are over, and actually see this player who also is maturing turn into the player we thought they could be.
Sig, I hear that, and you have to be really careful about when you cut the cord with a quarterback, and especially when he's young as J.J. McCarthy. But also, the Steelers waited too long with Kenny Pickett. The Jets waited too long with Zach Wilson. The Titans waited too long on Will Levis. The Colts waited too long on Anthony Richardson. Sometimes your guy doesn't have it. And I don't know that that's the case with J.J. McCarthy, but sometimes your guy doesn't have it. And the 49ers moved on from Trey Lance quickly and got to their next quarterback. The Arizona bailed on Josh Rosen right away, got to a better quarterback. I feel like it's more rare that a player turns it around downstream than it is that you end up overcommitting to a second or third year on a player that has not been good enough and doesn't end up getting, and ultimately that player doesn't end up getting better. I'm nervous about that, and I think history suggests that more often than not that player doesn't get better.
I think you're right, and maybe the twist that we need here is organizations that are willing to sit a first-round quarterback for a year or more, put him in the incubator, and then, you're right, players like Rosen and Richardson and Zach Wilson, you put them on the field right away, and you can see right away that they don't have it. But if they had more time for the game to slow down for them mentally, to really understand more about NFL defenses, to understand more about the offenses that they're running, that maybe this isn't the way it would go. But I think we can agree that overall, developing a young quarterback is very difficult. And that, that's why we take hats off to New England and Drake May and what they've been able to do. And hopefully those stories aren't the exception as we go forward.
Yeah, I hope so as well. And we'll talk more about JJ, I think, a little later in this in this hour. Overall, do you want to just give me your assessment of JJ McCarthy? And I don't expect you to have broken down every pass, but what did you see in 2025 from JJ McCarthy?
I saw somebody who was competitive. I don't think he was scared. I don't think he was playing timid, avoid mistakes and just take what the defense gives you. And you would see sometimes in high leverage situations, you would see the arm talent. You would see the ability to make a play when the team needed it. But sometimes I felt like his processor was going a little bit too fast. It didn't seem like his processing was rhythmic or in tune with the plays. It seemed like it was rushed. Again, sometimes we see quarterbacks that are rushed because I think they're scared, because they are overwhelmed. I don't think that's the case. I think we have to look back, and you mentioned Anthony Richardson again. I think McCarthy being injured last year might have been more pivotal when we realize in his development, because he comes in his second year with expectations, but he hasn't had a chance to get those productive reps to learn. And now when he's getting those kinds of learning games, it's seen as failure instead of a natural step in his progression.
Let's say Aaron Rodgers this offseason says something like what he said last offseason, and he'd like to quarterback the Vikings. Your favorite team is the Steelers, or at least I believe that's your favorite team. Am I stating that correctly? I mean, this is sort of your legacy team. It's also your favorite team.
It's the team in my heart.
Yes. The Steelers. Should the Vikings entertain Aaron Rodgers were he to be available and interested?
No, because look at the state of the franchises that he has been in this last act of his career. Look at what he's leaving in his wake. Even Denver did not even trade for him, and he derailed their franchise for a few years. So, I feel for Aaron Rodgers, because I think his personal journey has been something that we can all take something away from. And this year, he did seem like he just wanted to be a football player again. He just wanted to be a quarterback again. And it was fun to watch, because he had an authentic personality, an authentic persona. He was just a grumpy old man, and it made him immensely more likable. I think we could, I think when we're putting Aaron Rodgers in, we're holding on to something in the past that doesn't exist anymore.
Tell me about the decision to hire Mike McCarthy, which I don't like it personally, but you tell me, you're a Steelers fan. Mike McCarthy is going to be your next head coach. And this means, if history is any indication, he's going to be your head coach for another, 14 years.
Yeah. Well, this was like the Scooby-Doo meme where you pull the mask off, you pull the Mike Tomlin mask off, and it's really Art Rooney II and Omar Khan, where Steelers fans, I think, really lamented that we had a team that played with spirit. We had togetherness and unity, but we did not have a forward-looking organization. We did not have a team that was willing to play the game within the game. And that seemed like the limitations of Mike Tomlin, but it actually is perhaps the organizational philosophy, sort of playing not to lose, or just, this is how we win football games. If you can stop us, then good on you. A 20th century view of the game of football. But it's the whole organizations in the 20th century, because they basically decided to replace Mike Tomlin with the offensive version of Mike Tomlin, but also somebody that I don't think is going to change anything about how the organization is run. And the scariest part as a Steelers fan, Paul, is that they brought in Anthony Weaver and Brian Flores for in-person interviews other than Mike McCarthy and to satisfy the Rooney Rule. And then they hired Mike McCarthy. There was no competition for Mike McCarthy. How they ended up with Mike Tomlin is they let the process play out. They talked to all the candidates. They let themselves be persuaded by what they felt. And they decided to do the exact opposite in this process. They seemed like they were set on Mike McCarthy from the beginning. If there's one silver lining I can put out there for Steelers fans, it's that unlike Mike Tomlin, Mike McCarthy's coaches go on to be head coaches. He hires good coaches. Mike Tomlin did not, and that probably was his downfall, at least with the Steelers fans. So perhaps if Mike McCarthy is just a figurehead, but he brings in good people to run the offense and defense, maybe it'll end up working after all.
I love it. It's come to this for Steelers fans, like my good friend Sigmond Bloom. Hopefully our head coach is just a figurehead and doesn't actually have any bearing on the team. It's come to this, unfortunately. All right, last Steelers thing I want to give you. I think Kenneth Gainwell's really, really good. Mm-hmm. And he's going to be a free agent. I think his next team is getting a gem player. I really like Kenneth Gainwell. I thought he had improved in his last year in Philadelphia, and then I thought he was just outstanding with the Steelers in a split time role. What did you think about Kenneth Gainwell?
Yeah, this was a player. I mean, I will give Aaron Rodgers credit because I think Aaron Rodgers very early on was saying that Kenneth Gainwell is a player. I think the Steelers can probably bring him back. Now, I don't know if Mike Tomlin stepping down would change the equation here, because the one thing we heard from all the players is they really felt loved, that Mike Tomlin loved them. And there was mourning whenever he stepped down. And I don't know how much Kenneth Gainwell is attached to that, but this is going to be one of the most robust running back free agent markets we've seen. I do think you're going to see Kenneth Walker get a transition tag or a franchise tag after Zach Charbonnet went down, and then there's going to be Breece Hall at the top of the market. But after that, there's still a lot of very good, very useful running backs. In addition, Travis Etienne, Rico Dowdle, Javonte Williams, J.K. Dobbins. So Kenneth Gainwell probably isn't going to get that big of a raise. And if they do bring back Aaron Rodgers to go with Mike McCarthy, then that should be a big factor in Gainwell coming back to the Steelers.
My good friend Sigmond Bloom joins us on KFAN. I highly recommend checking out On the Couch, his outstanding podcast, which I've been fortunate enough to be a part of for, a decade or so. There are 4 open coaching seats: Arizona, Buffalo, Cleveland, Las Vegas. Because there were 10 openings, it feels like they're kind of screwed. I mean, off the board are Harbaugh, Stefanski, Hafley, Minter, McCarthy, Robert Saleh. They're all gone. They're fighting over the dregs, and in some cases, available coaches are refusing to interview or backing out of potentially being candidates. I get the feeling the Cardinals, Bills, Browns, and Raiders are in, and the Bills clearly the best out of the bunch, but you get the feeling that these teams are scrambling right now.
Yeah, I think you're right about Arizona and Cleveland, in so much as I think a few things are changing with the hiring and firing cycle, Paul. I think one is, I called it the transfer portal. It was like the transfer portal this year, because we saw the initial Black Friday openings, or Black Monday, or whatever we call it. But then you saw, if this team is going to lose in the playoffs, now this coach is going to be available. Well, if this coach is going to be available, now we decided, Mike McDaniel is an interesting name, right? He was going to be the head coach of the Dolphins, and then a few days into the cycle, he wasn't. So I think you're seeing the math change for teams and its ripple effect on other teams. But also, I do think we're seeing coaches, and Ben Johnson led the way here, realizing I should not just take the first job I can get. Mm-hmm. I should pick my spot the same way a free agent picks his spot for success. Now, the counter example, Paul, is New Orleans not having anybody hired until late in the process last year, getting Kellen Moore. Everybody saying, why would Kellen Moore take that job? It's so unattractive. And now look at what they've done as far as a turnaround in 1 year, and they're finally getting out of cap hell. So perhaps Arizona or Cleveland, maybe they get a Clint Kubiak because they haven't gotten anybody, and they sneak in the tail end of the process. So I think Buffalo is an interesting one because I think Bills fans and Steelers fans are feeling similar and wondering how much is this coach that we have been blaming for being a few steps short of success actually the load-bearing wall, and if we let the other people in the organization guide it, it can get worse.
Kellen Moore quietly was fantastic with the Saints this year. You look at what they did, starting with Spencer Rattler, getting to the trade deadline, ultimately trading Rashid Shaheed, which I think was absolutely pivotal for the Seahawks, but it also left them in a spot where they're starting Kevin Austin and Mason Tipton at the end of the year, and they ended up winning 4 of the last 5 and almost 5 of the last 5, and Tyler Shuck, to me, should win Rookie of the Year. It was on a smaller sample size than, say, Tet McMillan, who I think is the leader to win it. But what Shuck was able to do with the lack of talent around him, to me, and winning games down the stretch, to me, was remarkable. And I feel like the Saints were just so far off radar all season, and especially after they started poorly, that people didn't realize just how good the Saints had gotten by the end of the year.
There's a lot of stories there because we should also mention Brandon Staley, and let's remember the head coaches who fail but are better as coordinators. Let's watch where some of them end up. Again, Mike McDaniel with the Chargers is going to be fascinating to watch, assuming he doesn't end up the Raiders head coach. Chase Young, remember him? He started to look like an elite pass rusher. They have Chris Olave. I'm sure you're going to see him going into his 5th year. They'll sign him to a long-term contract. Devon Bailey was playing very well, even though they gave up a 3rd-round pick for him before he went down with a shoulder injury. The offensive line is looking like it's set. Maybe they need one more interior offensive lineman. And they have Tyler Shuck, maybe the most interesting story, because, Paul, going into the draft last year, the idea was we'll give any quarterback 7 years, and they'll all look like NFL prospects. Well, maybe there's something there. Maybe we could see quarterbacks. What I've suggested, Paul, is if I was advising a blue chip prospect, I would say you almost put together a quarterback development plan where you try to learn under, say, 3 different coaches and 3 different systems while you're in college, and milk that to get as many reps as you can, going back to the original discussion about young quarterbacks not getting those reps and not being given the time to develop. Use college. And then also, I think there's been a lot of talk out of New Orleans that Tyler Shuck, being 26, he was more mature. He was more mature in meetings. He was more ready for that leadership position. So I think there's something interesting to explore here where NIL and extra years of eligibility for players in college may help solve the NFL's quarterback shortage.
Sigmond Bloom, give me some of your first blush thoughts on Patriots versus Seahawks that we'll be seeing in 13 days from now. Do you have an initial lean on who you think wins this game, storylines that interest you from the game, who you're excited to see? Talk to me about Patriots Seahawks coming up.
Yeah, I think that it's hard to pick against Seattle. I think when we look at the teams on paper, Seattle is clearly the superior team. Yep. And now you have more balance in their offense with Kenneth Walker as a lead back, actually getting in a rhythm. I mean, Shaq Charbonnet was a good running back, but you wonder if this is something they could have unlocked earlier. The one thing that could benefit the Patriots is that we've heard every game now that they're making smoke come out of the ears of the opposing quarterback because of deception, because they're showing one look. And this is Zach Kerr, one of the most underreported stories. You know, Terrell Williams, the defensive coordinator for the Patriots, diagnosed with prostate cancer, not able to serve his duty. Zach Kerr was in his first NFL position coach job. He was hired to be the inside linebacker coach. He had spent time with Mike Vrabel in Tennessee. He was foisted into this defensive coordinator job, and he has been the main reason that the Patriots have advanced without much friction because of how good their defense has been. And that is something I think that we could see. Remember, the first game against the Rams, Sam Darnold threw 4 interceptions. So if the Patriots have something up their sleeve on defense to confuse Sam Darnold and then get him in a confidence spiral where it's happening again, I'm making the plays, I'm letting my team down. That is their angle, because I don't think Drake May, the way he's playing, is going to have an answer for Seattle's pass rush, because Will Campbell has been a problem. I think Drake May was sacked 5 times or more at each of the first 2 games. I think we would have seen a game played in regular conditions. He probably would have been sacked 5 times yesterday too. So I think that it's the Patriots defense, not Drake May, that could be the key to their chances to win.
Patriots defense, their run defense, they quietly signed Milton Williams this offseason. Right. Milton Williams, their run stuffing defensive lineman, is amazing. In games, he played 13 games this year leading up to yesterday's game, and I haven't updated my stats on this, but going into last week, in those games, they were giving up 2.9 yards per rush with Milton Williams. He is such a huge part of that defense. Nobody can run on the Patriots. And that's, if you ask me to find a way that the Patriots, who are 3.5-point underdogs, in the Super Bowl, you found a way to give them a real edge. I think that's the edge, is they take away the running game and give themselves, start to get Seattle a little bit one-dimensional. That might be a path for Patriots victory.
And Christian Barmore, we saw him make a big play yesterday. He was sitting with blood clots last year. So this is a big deal that now I think he really has his legs back. So you have, I think, the most athletic and talented defensive tackle duo. And you're right, that's where it all starts. And they should get Harold Landry back for the Super Bowl. So that line up front is definitely Marcus Jones and Christian Gonzalez are very talented players who can turn the game. They're ball hawks. Jones in particular can take any ball he gets in his hands to the house as a returner or as a defensive back. So I do think that, again, you're right, the Patriots defense, those are the players that could flip the game for them.
What'd you think of Sean Payton's decision to not take the field goal when they were up 7-0 early in that game yesterday? And they're at the Patriots 14-yard line. They've got the chip shot field goal that would have put them up 10. They end up losing by 3. So there's a little bit of hindsight here. Tony Romo in the moment suggested that they could have kicked here and maybe should have kicked. What did you think about that decision? And do you feel like Sean Payton deserves some criticism for that, or is that really just us? Is that just hindsight?
He deserves criticism, but I do think that he had the right mindset coming in. Going into the game yesterday, Steve Weish and Jeff Duncan, who covered Sean Payton for years here in New Orleans, talked about that Payton was going to have confidence in Jarrett Stidham. And Jeff Duncan even said, it might backfire, but he will take his shots. And I believe when Sean Payton said, Stiddy's got it, there was a collective groan in the football world. But we saw in that first drive, he called the shot play. Stidham put it out there for Marvin Mims. It electrified everything. They took a 7-0 lead. Then he needed to assess that his defense was going to allow him to shell up and be conservative. Yeah. And if he had just put that second layer in the strategy, let's come out and surprise them by trusting my quarterback, open up a lead, and then circle the wagons and protect that lead and let the defense take over, then we'd be talking about Jarrett Stidham starting the Super Bowl today.
Sig, it's been great catching up with you. Thanks so much for coming on. It's always a pleasure. Well, let's do a little book club next time we're on the couch, and let's talk through Percy Fawcett a little bit.
Yeah, hey, absolutely. The off season is the time for other interests, and
Yes.
I look forward anytime we get to talk.
You are the best. You can follow Sigmond Bloom. He is the co-owner of Football Guys, footballguys.com, and the wonderful On the Couch podcast. Thank you, Sigmond.
Thanks, Paul.
When we come back, let's talk a little more Super Bowl and some J.J. McCarthy odds and ends for the full season. Really haven't had a chance to look back at J.J. McCarthy in a holistic way full season yet. Others on this station have. I've not. And he's the most important topic for the Minnesota Vikings. We'll talk about him, talk about the Super Bowl between now and the top of the hour.
Wild fans, this is your season. You can experience the energy, the goals, the unforgettable moments at Grand Casino Arena. To get your tickets now, wild.com/tickets to cheer on the Wild this season, wild.com/tickets.
Oh, turn up this jazz fusion right here. Oh,
You love this.
Let's turn it up a little bit. Thank you.
You want to know what this ditty is called?
This is the definition of elevator music right here. It's the definition of it. And I wonder if it's AI generated or not. It feels like it because to me that kind of that what we just heard feels soulless. Like nobody rolls out of bed going, you know what? I'm really excited to play sax on that song right there. That only a algorithm could want to play that song.
You know, all these approved songs that we have names. This is Cooking with Jazz.
Oh, I'd light myself on fire first.
Anyway, there you
It's
go.
so bad. Now, I'm really torn on AI music. And here's what's happened. One, I was YouTube recommends music. You play this song that you chose and it recommends other songs. It recommended a playlist of 1960s spy jazz. And I'm like, ooh, that sounds like fun. So I just turned the playlist on. I'm working during the day. It's playing totally cool, chill 60s spy jazz. I mean, it's exactly what you said. And it's great. It's an hour long. And then there's no vocals. And then I noticed the runtime is like exactly 1 hour. I'm like, wait a minute. And I'm trying to find out who actually is the artist. And there's no artist listed. And I'm like, wait a minute. I've been duped. I've been listening to AI. 1960s spy jazz. That's, I did not know I was listening to AI and I liked it. I was enjoying it. I felt very conflicted and I still do because I want to believe in the purity of the human experience and us creating our own music that we like, artists creating music for people. But at the end of the day, maybe that's all just, it's all Pollyanna-ish. And at the end of the day, we're going to be fed almost nothing but AI content, video content, audio content. When, the day's not far off, Brett, where you're going to fire up Netflix and it is simply going to create a brand new show for you in that moment based on everything else you've ever watched and go, we know all about you. We know exactly what you like. We know what you don't like, the shows you've bailed on, and we're going to create a brand new show on the fly right now, the moment you ask for it. That's coming.
Is it weird that I kind of want to see what's on the other side of that just to see I wouldn't condone it, but I kind of want to see what that show would look like. Is it even watchable?
Well, what if it's good?
Well, think about it.
What if it's good?
Yeah.
Yeah. What if it's great and it's perfectly suited for you? That's coming. Yeah. And the music's going to happen that way too. Spotify right now does have AI music on it. I listened to some country song that I don't remember the name of, but it was it was indistinguishable. I could not tell that I was listening to AI. And maybe people that know country better than I do would have been able to pick it out. I could not tell. And it's a good song. I enjoyed the song. So this thing is, I'm torn on it now, but I think in the long run, we're not going to have a choice. It's all going to be AI, and there's still going to be humans behind it and human prompts behind it for now. But in time, those will go away as well.
Well, we're not doing a Video Games Weekly segment today, but that's a big topic in that sphere as well. Because one game that I play a ton, Arc Raiders, has AI generated voice lines for if you ping a building over there or ping an enemy, and your character will go, "There's an enemy over there by the rocks," and it's human based, but then it goes into AI for the specific type stuff. And they've gotten a lot of blowback and a lot of angry response from that, from how dare you take work away from voice actors. So, and it's like, well,
why is it the voice actors? Okay.
I know.
You're right. That is absolutely happening, Brett. But why is it always the voice actors? Everybody is coding with AI. Everybody is. You can't not create you can't create a product without using AI to help the coding process. Nobody seems to mind that. Why is it always the voice actors that get this deferential treatment in the video game industry, where people are boycotting games because some portion of the voices were AI generated, but it's okay that 1/3 of the code was AI generated,
or any of the environments are procedurally generated. It's just part of advancement in technology, as far as I'm concerned.
And I don't know if it's all good.
Well,
I have not landed on a full opinion on this, but the reality is, at least with music, it sounds good and I enjoy it. So at the end of the day, I'm probably going to consume it because it sounds good. I suspect that it's going to be, it's music first because that's easiest. It'll be video later, I believe. And it could be that, Brett, you become an influencer, a tastemaker, that you end up creating and prompting awesome videos that people love, and you start creating AI content that is genuinely good, and people start following you so that we can watch what you're having AI create for you.
If there's a revenue involved, I'm interested.
You're
That's
interested.
for sure. Yeah. Could be a scummy way to do it, but with the AI stuff. Yeah.
A little bit. Let's talk Super Bowl. We haven't done that yet. Patriots Seahawks. The line 3.5. Seahawks. No, that's not right. The line is I do not see the line. I thought I had the line in front of me.
By.
Help me out here.
I've got the line at 4.5 to the Seahawks.
4.5 Seahawks. Thank you very much. So 4.5 Seahawks. Seahawks it feels like the Patriots haven't sort of paid their dues yet, right? That this is all so fast, and they have, young players at critical positions, especially Drake May. Seahawks have this really, really well-rounded team, almost without any deficiency. You are looking at one of the best run defenses in the NFL when you talk about the Seahawks. As I take a look right now, they finished 3rd in rush defense by yardage. This is one of the best pass defenses in football. They're extremely good at getting pressure on opposing quarterbacks, and the Seahawks can do it with their base package. And their back-end players, their secondary's good. The rookie, Nick Imanwari, who might win Defensive Player of the Year, was Nick Imanwari available for the Vikings, or we picked in the first round? Man, if he is, I'm going to be really bummed out. I'm trying to remember what the sequencing was on that. Their safety, he's really good, and we talked a lot about him as somebody that we were interested in kind of going into the Vikings pick in the draft. Ultimately, that pick was Donovan Jackson, and Vikings needed help there too, by the way. I don't think there was a way they were going to get Donovan Jackson and Nick Imanwari, but Imanwari went pick 35 to the Seahawks, and man, he looks fantastic. But that Seahawks secondary, not just him, but Devon Witherspoon's one of the best slot cornerbacks in the league. Josh Jobe is good. This is it just feels like the Seahawks they check every box. There's just not a weakness. They're running great with Kenneth Walker. They've got obviously Jackson Smith and Jigba, who led the NFL in receiving yards. Rashid Shaheed has opened up this offense in a much needed way. We talked about it at the outset of the show. Cooper Kupp. It feels like the Seahawks. I don't want to like team of destiny, but there's just not obvious ways you go, well, this is how you go beat the Seahawks. And it is going to be really a huge, huge challenge. I think more than a 4.5 point challenge, for the Patriots. But there's a few angles for the Patriots. I mentioned one with Sigmond Bloom just a few minutes ago. Awesome run defense. If you can get the Seahawks, they can squash Kenneth Walker and get the Seahawks in a pass-only mode. Any team's vulnerable at that point. When we come back, final segment, J.J. McCarthy has, I want to just do some quick thoughts on how incredibly important this decision coming up on J.J. McCarthy is, and a little historic data to go along with it as we start looking ahead with the Vikings. Sam Darnold headed to the Super Bowl. You got to play the hand that we've got, and that includes obviously J.J. McCarthy and what to do with him. When we come back, final segment, Paul Charchian in Today.
The Fan welcomes some great shows to Grand Casino Arena this year. Rascal Flatts will be there January. Eric Church, February 7th. Tickets on sale now. Get the complete details on upcoming shows, KFAN.com, keyword calendar.
Final segment, 9 to noon. Common Man looming, I presume. And by looming, if it's Common, that means he's probably somewhere near 494 and 100 right now. That's what I'm going to.
Or he's doing free show in Abbott's office. One of the two.
That is possible.
Yeah,
that is very possible. As a matter of fact, yeah, we can go with that. The key area of frustration around J.J. McCarthy to me is less about J.J. McCarthy, but the fact that we got to the end of this season without a definitive sense of what we have in J.J. McCarthy. Goal number one going into the season for the Vikings organizationally was to win games, make the playoffs. Goal number two is to have a more definitive answer on J.J. McCarthy. And we don't quite know enough yet. Clearly not good enough to be a lock to be the future, but also not quite bad enough where you can say we've got to find a pivot in the offseason, put him back on the bench and wait and see what we've got in a year or two down the road in J.J. McCarthy, which is a luxury the team has. He's under contract, rookie deal. You could absolutely go that way. This was a Vikings team that, as one of the oldest teams in the league, was with the oldest starters in the league, is needed to win now. And JJ was not able to do that. So we roll into the offseason with a lot of questions around JJ. Almost every team that finds itself in this position with a highly drafted quarterback who struggles in his first year. And I know it was technically his second year, but let's just go with first year. First year starting. Almost all of them will bring back that player to their detriment. And that decision costs jobs. Coaches get fired, GMs get replaced. And that's the irony for the general managers. They think their best chance of survival, job survival, is to prove themselves right with the original struggling quarterback. But I think the clearer path historically is proven to be cut bait. And I'm not necessarily advocating that for J.J. McCarthy, but let's look at it. Anthony Richardson, picked 4th overall. That has proven to be a bad pick. He started many games through 2 years when he was healthy enough to start, and then got dramatically outplayed by Daniel Jones, who was so much more effective in largely the same offense. Will Levis was picked 33rd by the Tennessee Titans. He ended the tenure of Mike Vrabel. They brought him back the next year, made him the starter, ended Brian Callahan's coaching too. I mean, the Tennessee ownership blamed Mike Vrabel more than they blamed themselves for drafting Will Levis. So dumb. Kenny Pickett, drafted 20th by the Pittsburgh Steelers. They tried him for 2 full years, and those were just lost seasons. Years of lives gone. Kenny Pickett. Zach Wilson, drafted 2nd by the Jets. He was given 3 seasons as the starter, despite showing nothing, and they went through different coaches. None of those teams that I just mentioned, the Colts, the Titans, the Steelers, the Jets, they haven't won a single playoff game since they drafted those quarterbacks. And it's because teams are so reticent to acknowledge the possibility that they made a mistake. Meanwhile, contrast that to the 49ers. They made a huge blunder with Trey Lance. They moved up in the draft. They overpaid a bunch to go get him. They figured out fast that Trey Lance was not on the developmental timeline that they were going to have. And maybe Trey Lance will, and Trey Lance actually had moments where he looked pretty good this year. Maybe the 49ers are going to figure out, 49ers figured out quickly Trey Lance wasn't their guy. And they moved on. And ultimately they found their guy. Arizona bailed on Josh Rosen right away. That was the right choice. There are examples where it has worked, where you show stubborn patience. Josh Allen turned it around after a very bad first year. Sam Darnold needed 7 years to turn it around. And we're not even talking about that. I'm talking about guys in year 2 and year 3 here. But the reality is overwhelmingly, the quarterbacks who struggle at the level that J.J. McCarthy did early in their career are very rarely salvageable. Kwesi's an analytics guy. Historical data here shows that clinging to the hope that your highly drafted quarterback is going to pan out after as tough a year as the one J.J. McCarthy had is more likely to fail and more likely to cost Kwesi's job than to find other solutions at quarterback, which is never easy to do. As outlined earlier in the show, and I went through the litany of the awful quarterbacks before Kirk for 20 years that we were subjected to. Getting the quarterback position is very, very difficult. J.J. McCarthy, maybe it's all going to come together. We're all clinging to hope that he's going to get better with age. The mechanics will get better. The touch will get better. The poise will get better. The accuracy will get better. Man, I know he had some good throws, and he had some stellar throws, but on balance, this was not a season for J.J. McCarthy that should lead people to say, we're going to just roll back McCarthy no matter what. We are not going to bring in anybody to compete with him, or as in the case this year, perhaps not even have functional backups that can walk in. And we aren't even talking yet about maybe the lead storyline with JJ. The kid can't stay healthy. Now, what do we have? 4 different injuries this year. He played in 10 games, didn't finish 10 games. I think he finished 8, half a season after missing the entire first year. There's got to be a better backup plan than Carson Wentz off his 7 years or whatever it was. Max Brosmer, Brett Rippon, theirs can't stand pat. Can't stand pat and just hope that J.J. McCarthy pans out. This team has yet to get its proven franchise quarterback. And as we have talked many times, 9 to noon over the years, keep drafting quarterback until you have your franchise quarterback. And that is my opinion after 1 season of J.J. McCarthy starts. Brett Blakemore, thank you for all your help today. Very much appreciate it.
Thank you.
For everybody who listened, thank you for tuning in. Common Man and Brandon Molesky coming up next.
Podcast today's Paul Allen Show or listen back to previous show and interviews by going to the iHeartRadio app or KFAN.com.